Michael Wilbon, our great friend from Pardon the Interruption, the best studio show on ESPN, I might say. He joins us here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Michael?
Rich, I'm better. Better than I was after Friday and Saturday night, as you can imagine.
Yeah, give me voice. Give voice to the Cubs fan. What are you thinking right now? What's going through your mind?
I said going into the series, I thought the Cubs would have to do something incredibly difficult, historically difficult to win. And I said specifically they'd have to come back from 3-1 down. I didn't say they would do it. I said I thought in order to win the World Series, they'd have to come back from 3-1 down. I said that going into the series. So here we were. And they were 3-1 down. And I just think that we had to get to a place like the Red Sox where expectations had been put away. Because you alluded to the expectations. See, the problem is those expectations are almost never fulfilled in Chicago when you have those situations where you have crusades. You know, this wasn't a baseball series. This was a crusade, a civic crusade. And the pressure on those kids, and I do mean kids, with all due respect to, Gramps and David and Ben Zobrist and a couple of people who are older. The pitching staff is older, but the everyday players, you have 6 guys in that lineup routinely who are 24 or less. 24. Nobody has that. Nobody does that. Nobody has that in baseball, really in professional sports at all. And people will tell you that they're not paying attention to that, and it doesn't matter, and we're not a part of it. Yeah, they are. You got to drive to the ballpark, don't you? You got to drive past 500,000 people in Wrigley Field or whatever it was, 300,000, I guess. You know that's not natural. And so what you have is you have generations later or even years later, like the 2007 and 18. 2018, Rich, they were the best team in baseball. They had the best record. And they were completely undone by the enormity of it. That's the curse, if there's a curse. It's that. It's the civic expectation. So now you take that away. They don't have that. They're on the road where they played better. Their best game was game 2. They're on the road. I think they can still win. I'm not going to sit here and bet you. I'm not going to Vegas on that.
Right.
But I think the Cubs have a situation where they got 2 pitchers they'd like to have out there in Arrieta and Hendricks, and you go for it. Chapman has now had his role expanded and his comfort level, though he fought it last night. That's been expanded because he got 8 outs. Maybe Chris Bryant is pulled out of this. I think they'll be much more relaxed away from Wrigley Field. I mean that. I just think that, I don't know if you remember this. You remember when the Bulls were up 3-1 on Charles Barkley and the Suns in 1993 for the NBA championship?
Sure.
And they boarded up the city. They boarded up Chicago to prepare for a celebration. And Charles came in and he wrote on the whiteboard, "Save the city. Save Chicago. Let's beat the Bulls. Save the city." And, of course, it was hysterical and to the point, and it was Charles as only Charles Barkley can beat Charles Barkley. And they won that game, the Suns did. They made the Bulls go back and win in Phoenix. And I draw parallels to it because when I got to Chicago on Friday, I was like, this is not going to go the way people think. This is too much. And I think it's better for them to be on the road.
Michael Wilbon joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. I think you're right. They're a better lineup with Schwarber in it and their pitcher out of it with a bat.
That's right, too. I didn't even think of that yet. I haven't gotten to that. You're right, Rich.
So he's going to be back out there, too. And now, in a way, the pressure does revert to the Indians, I guess, just to make sure that there is no Game 7. That's the beauty of these 7-game series. And now, Arrieta, I know he was lights out for the first 5 innings. That's another thing you can hang your hat on. What was the atmosphere like in Wrigley, Michael, after waiting your whole life to see it?
Well, it changed. There were several different atmospheres in Wrigley. The atmosphere Friday was, we came to have a party, the biggest party in a city known for its parties. And you've been in that neighborhood, you've been in that ballpark, that
Sure.
place is crazy. So it was an extreme version of that. It was your basic Wrigley Field Friday night on, so many steroids you couldn't even recognize it. But then, after, the loss Friday night took some wind out of our sails, the loss Saturday night turned it into, we don't get morose. We're not New England. We're not the East Coast. We're not New York. We don't get mean. We're not Philly. People were just down. And so last night was quiet to start that game. Absolutely quiet. And the ballpark was sort of on, people were still, saying, hey, we can still do this. But at that point, it was a quiet resolve. It bore no resemblance to what was going on Friday and Saturday.
So, who had the best take me out to the ball game? Bill Murray, Vince Vaughn, or Eddie Vedder? What'd you think, seeing all three of them, Michael?
They weren't all that different. There was nothing like a Ditka, You ever seen Ditka's version?
Of course. He zipped through it.
Screams his way through it like it's a Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah.
There was nothing like that. I guess Eddie Vedder, he's the professional guy, right?
And he also played Harry. He had Harry played at the same time, too.
That's always good to get a nice mood in Wrigley when you get Harry. When you mentioned Harry and Ernie, that's the optimism of the Cubs, and that's the spirit of the Cubs, even now.
Right.
Both gone. And that's still the optimism and the spirit of the franchise and of the city, to be honest, are those two guys in many ways.
Mike.
But I thought that the anthems were great. They got this guy now, Johnny somebody. I can't think of his last name. He's an anthem singer, and he sounds like Sinatra. And it looks like from the field he's like 6'3", 300 pounds, it looks like. He's a big guy. And he belts it out. He's become, I think, you can't say Chicago's new favorite anthem singer because we got the situation at the Blackhawks where that's the greatest anthem of all time.
Yeah, you stand throughout it. Yeah.
But this guy Johnny something, I can't think of his last name. So I'm a raider of the anthems. If I'm allowed to do the seventh inning stretch, and I have been, then it can't be all that big.
I think it's Johnny Vincent, Michael.
Johnny Vincent, yeah, that guy is spectacular. It's like he takes a saloon version of the anthem to the ball field. I can hear him sing it every night. I'm getting to the point where, and Wayne Messmer, who sang it, is a Chicago staple and a great guy, a great anthem singer. We don't have people who come in and do the local version for 6 minutes. We don't have that. Chicago, you come out, you belt out the anthem, or you get the hell out.
Michael Wilbon joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. I'd be remiss if I didn't hit you just while you're on the phone here with just a question about the NBA with the season being a week in, Michael. Many people talking about the Warriors, obviously, and what Kawhi Leonard was able to do, and LeBron James and the raising of the banner, handing out of the rings. Russell Westbrook or the field for MVP? Who would you take?
Russell. This was an easy choice 2 weeks ago for me. Russell Westbrook as MVP is an easy choice. What I also have, and it's amazing, Rich, that how the MVP in the NBA is always tied to winning. It's tied to a winning team, a big winner, not some team that's 44 and 38. That doesn't happen. But people are picking Westbrook to win the MVP, but then they're picking the Oklahoma City to go to win 42 games. I'm like, no. No, I have Oklahoma City going to the conference finals. So I have Durant and Westbrook facing each other in the conference finals. I do. Because I think that Russell Westbrook can, and without Durant, will have that impact on his team. So Russell Westbrook is not my favorite player. But I just think that he is going to be unleashed in a way that some people are going to pay, as we've seen with these, one near triple-double and one triple-double already.
What do you mean he's not your favorite player? What do you mean by that?
I don't like that style. That's not the basketball I value. I want my point guard to be more along the lines of, a guy that there's only been one of, Magic Johnson. I want Steve Nash. That's my point guard. Magic, Nash, Stockton. That's what I value personally. So Westbrook, he's a wonder. He's must-watch basketball. I like Curry better. I'm not a Westbrook guy. I don't want a guy having 44 shots in a game under any circumstances ever. I got to go back to see if Michael Jordan ever took 44 shots in a game or how many times he ever did it. I don't. That's not my basketball. But I'm okay. I'm a voter, and then when the time comes, if he has had the impact on the season and his team that I think, I have no trouble voting for him, even though that's not my favorite brand of basketball.
Couple more minutes left with Michael Wilbon. Did you see that the overnight ratings that Game 5 of the World Series beat Cowboys and Eagles by 32%?
Wow.
What do you make of that, Michael?
The Cubs are the story. It doesn't mean that the Indians aren't going to be proven the better team in this series and have their own great story, but it's the Cubs. It's 130 years and 110 of it, futility. And people know who they are. They have big stars. They've been on TV for 2 years. And these guys are only – Javi Baez is 23. Addison Russell's 22. Chris Bryant's 24. Rizzo's like the old man. He's 25. People know their faces, not just in Chicago. You know them. They have commercials and stuff now. I know that Bryant does, and I think Rizzo does too. So people know them, and you don't know baseball players anymore. In the 21st century, people just don't automatically know the faces of baseball players, except like Poppy or people who won multiple series. Derek Jeter now gone, Mariano Rivera gone. So you got a void there, and these guys can step into it, but they got to win. They don't have to win this year, but they have to win. But that's what that's about. It's the storyline and people identifying whether they root for them, against them, or the Cubs.
And lastly, heart of hearts, what do you think is going to happen? Game 6, Game 7.
I can't. I'm not detached from this. I'm as in it as anybody ever. I believe that the Cubs can win. And I said they had to be down like 3-1. They had to be in some emergency situation.
Well, they're in it. They're in it.
They were in it when they got to 3-1, and I like our chances. I'm not a bettor. I don't go to Vegas. I don't do that. But I like where the Cubs are right now, and I like Arrieta going out there. And can we get 6 innings from him tomorrow night?
Send my best to Tony and everybody at the crew at PTI. Okay, Michael?
Will do, Rich.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks for having me,
You bet.
sir.
Always at Real Mike Wilbon on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.